You've been searching for answers, direction, for something to change in your life. You've been looking for just the right teacher, or just the right system, just the right book or method, just waiting for the right sign to come through the door. And maybe you've been hoping something outside of yourself would finally unlock that door. But what if the reason you have not found it is because you've been looking in the wrong place? What if the key was never outside of you? What if the key was not a system, a teacher, a method, or a book? What if the key is you? Now, not your personality. Certainly not your name, not your job, not your physical existence, not your titles or roles, not the labels that other people give you, and not that conditioned identity that was built from fear or pain or expectation. The deeper self, the aware self, the I am that is within you, that presence beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the noise of the world, beneath the identity you were taught to defend with your life. And until you understand who you believe yourself to be, you will keep trying to fix the outside while the inner world keeps recreating the same old patterns. So today we're asking you one of the most important questions you will ever be asked on the path of transformation. Who are you and what are you really looking for? Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Justin Gates. Joining me, as always, is Michael Perry.
Hey, fam.
And you're listening to the new Ashla Coaching and Self-Mastery Podcast. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy you're here. Michael, this is going to be a doozy of an episode today. A lot of people, I think, are going to feel called out, but I want them to understand that we're just telling it like it is, right?
Yep. Often when the episodes that make you feel the most called out are the ones that you needed to hear most. One of the things I have been really embracing lately is, especially because I've been working intimately with a lot of things, to evaluate doing shadow work and looking at my patterns and asking for honest feedback and getting that information. And man, it's just so humbling when you hear something and it's like, I hate how true that is, but you know what? You're right. Where do I go from here?
My favorite axioms are the ones that dig in and hold us down for a minute, because those are the ones that we need. Those are the axioms that become medicine, right? So today we're going to be talking about why so many of us search everywhere else except for the right place to look when it comes to change and healing and creation and ultimately transformation, growth, living. We're going to look at the difference between the labels we carry and the true self beneath those, how the self-image determines what feels possible, and why awareness is the doorway that allows the old identity to loosen its grip on us and lets us walk through it. We're also going to talk about the role of teachers and guides and these systems and spiritual paths and practices. These things matter. They can help us. They do help us. This podcast will be one example of that, right? They can point us in a direction, but they cannot unlock the door, because as we'll discover today, Michael, we are the architects of the lock. We are also the architects of the door. Therefore, we must be the key, right? That's what we're going to be getting into today.
You know, I even look at the stuff we do, and we very much give people different paths they could walk as far as healing and self-mastery and cultivating the perfect life, right? But the issue is they're not actually paths. What we actually provide in this podcast every episode are different tools. You know, one episode we're giving you a pickaxe so you can mine for ore and then an axe to chop and get wood for fire. And it's just, each episode is nothing but a tool to have in your pocket, because the only true path you will ever be able to walk is your own. I heard a quote a long time ago and I love it. And it's, if you're on your path and you're following a paved trail, you're on the wrong path.
Yeah, no, that is wise. That is wise. I wrote something many, many years ago, and I called it something like, "What are you looking for?" I mean, I wrote this back in like 2008, right? Almost 20 years ago. God, that's a long time ago. And, you know, I think I'm just going to read it to you, because I don't know where to find it on the internet anymore. The websites are probably dead and gone. But what are you looking for? I suspect you've asked yourself this question as well. I'm talking about something deeper on a spiritual, mental, and physical level. Many people find themselves feeling a sort of void deep down, like something isn't there that is supposed to be there. So off they go, looking for that unknown and mysterious thing that is missing deep down. They seek out others to help them look, or to just tell them what is missing, and what they're lacking. Ironically, people always look for answers to the self by going away from the self. Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Let me give you a couple of examples, if I may. A Christian will go to a priest or preacher looking for God or Jesus. A Jew will go to a rabbi for help finding God. A Padawan or a knight will enlist a master to show them where the Force is hiding. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've had that question, where is God? Or how do I find God? Or what is the secret to the Force? And so on. My reply is always the same. You are looking in the wrong place. Now, it continues on from there. It's pretty lengthy. I don't want to read the whole thing, but that's kind of where we are today. This is what we're going to be getting into. Because the problem, first we have to call out the problem, right? The problem is that you've been looking outside for an inner key, Michael.
You know, I had a conversation with someone recently who I deeply care about, and they're very religious. And I was talking about, one of the biggest things people are missing when you look at religion, you look at people in Christianity, Catholicism, people in general who have, this is people as a whole, but people are so focused on God, this omnipotent being. They're looking for forgiveness. They're looking for answers. They're looking for direction. And they forget that there's a Trinity, right? Mm-hmm. We have God, we have Jesus, but we have the Holy Spirit. And you hardly hear anyone ever talk about the Holy Spirit, but that's what resides inside of us. That is an essence that guides us.
Yeah. And there's many words for that, many ways we could describe that feeling, that thing, that the admin of the universe, I like to call it sometimes, that energy that binds and connects and flows through all things. We have lots of words for it. I personally don't mind if people call it different things. Again, like I told you in the last episode that we recorded, that I don't care if you get things perfect. If you can explain things to me, that's better. I like that better anyway. So, yeah. But people will look for the right method or and I'm doing this just air quotes. If you can't see me on the video, I'm doing air quotes here for the perfect teacher, the right circumstances, the right book, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with seeking those things. I have a whole shelf full of books that have helped me through lots of things and helped me understand and learn things. Hell, I've even written a couple that you can buy to learn a few things. And I've relied on mentors, Michael, but I've also relied on my students, right? I've probably learned more from my students at this point in my life than I have from my mentors because I've had a lot more students than mentors, right? And we know this, the student is the best teacher, but there's nothing wrong with that stuff. I don't want to get it messed up right off the bat here that I'm talking crap about teachers and systems and stuff like that, because those are good. Those are important. Picking the right ones are really key, but we're not here to discuss that today. But none of those can become the key. The person who uses those must become the key. They are the key, but they can't be if they're disconnected from the self, right? That's kind of the first problem here.
I remember when we first met and I was reading all the books. I was articulating all the information. I was doing in practice all the right things when it came to what we think is what we're supposed to do to create real change. And I remember you confronting me on that and saying, what are you doing to integrate? And to me, I was like, I am integrating. I'm understanding this. Things are clicking. Everything's coming together. And it wasn't until I got humbled by life and I actually came to you to learn under you that I realized how I think we all sort of escape into self-help because it makes sense. It helps us understand these ailments, but it doesn't actually help with the ailments.
Yeah. Well, it's just like when you ask people the question, who are you? Which is the question we're here to ask everybody today, right? Who are you? You get many of the same answers. Well, my name is Justin. I was born in California. My body type is this. This is my job. These are my family members. This is my relationship status, all these things, right? And those things are important. They're not meaningless by any stretch of the imagination, because we live in a world where those things are things, right? Bills have to be paid. Children need to be taken care of. Our responsibilities matter. Our roles matter. Father, husband, wife, friend, teacher, worker, seeker. Those are roles that I play. Those are important too. And labels help us with our language and help us communicate with each other. But those are not the limit of who we are. They describe the kind of life that we participate in, don't they?
Yeah.
They don't fully reveal the spirit, the soul that lives beneath it.
I feel much of this work is in the discovery of separating all of this identity and definition we've given ourselves through ages, which takes a lot to unravel, because the more we can separate to the self, away from the labels, away from the definitions, away from trying to describe ourselves, the more we get into honesty, the more we get into truth. You know, one of my favorite sayings that I came up with a while back that's just been hitting me hard the more I think about it is the death of authenticity, authenticity requires the death of identity. Because identity puts you in a box. It makes the me now something else, because you're trying to label it, because you're trying to give it shape when it's shapeless, when it can morph and change. And the more we try to hold to these rigid definitions, the more we restrict ourselves in truly embracing any and every possibility that could be available to us.
Right. Well, and going back to what you said, insight without integration, we give all these identifiers as to what we are or what we do or who we hang out with, but not really understand who we are. But we do collect all this information like we're out there playing Pokemon Go and still not ever change, right? Got to catch them all. Got to catch all the things, but we still don't change. And you can study healing and talk about transformation. And you're one of the smartest, sharpest dudes I've ever met on this field of discovery that we're on.
I had a good teacher.
I have very little contact with anybody who's as sharp as you, as far as all the books and all the things, and you're a very good well of information. But you're right. Knowledge did not become transformation until it touched you inside here, until you needed. And for you and for me and for almost everyone I know, at least probably everyone I know, it was when we were pushed to, when we were forced to, maybe when we hit rock bottom, or maybe when we hit crisis, which is a show we did a while back. If you haven't heard that, go back and listen to that. But this is why it's important for us to integrate, because you can know what to do, but still not believe that you can do it, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy. You literally can know, but still not believe it.
Well, I think one of the most dangerous things with self-awareness, like, it's bad enough how much people are adverse to self-awareness, especially if they've never touched it. Because you're right, usually crisis is what makes us finally look in the mirror. But what self-awareness asks of us is to reflect on these behaviors we have cultivated and to make change. And when we just address it from the articulation level, our nervous system doesn't agree to it. Because we always count our body and our brain as the same thing, but we can consciously know anything and everything. That means crap when it comes to what your body knows. Because the minute the body picks up on anything, the minute you actually have to put one of those things and stress test it, is the minute you're going to go right back to being who you've always been, because that is what you're trained to do.
Right. And you don't speak the body's language because you've been hiding from the truth that the body's been carrying, right? So the key is never outside of you. Like almost everything we talk about here, the key here begins when awareness meets our true self, our authentic self. This is why it's so important for us to kind of beat this dead horse about being authentic. Because that's when integration happens, is when you can be just authentic enough. You don't have to be perfect at this, but just authentic enough for truth to touch, right? That's why we push that so hard, because really that's one of the big breakthroughs that you're going to have in this whole healing thing that you're doing. Doesn't matter what kind of healing. It's when your true self, your not your identity, but what you truly are and who you truly are, touches truth. That's where things start to, right? So the key was never outside of you. It is you. But let's talk about how this shows up. So for those of us who are kind of going, oh man, this kind of resonating, but I don't think I've ever really been able to catch it, because we want to be aware of it so that we can start pausing and dealing with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to where this whole conversation started, right? We're looking outside of ourselves for regulation instead of learning how to regulate ourselves. When we have things outside of ourselves that we use as our measuring sticks, as our evaluators, even if it's not necessarily what people tell us or where we're at in life, but we're just constantly trying to manage things outside of ourselves so we feel okay. There's this disconnect we have from our true power. It's something that I'm starting to become painfully aware of. I've been evaluating my own philosophy a bunch, and it's trying to wrap my head around where do we have that shift from outer control to inner control? And awareness is one of the most important parts, but it's also being able to create a sense of sovereignty in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to be able to stay strong within who we are as a person. We have to be able to be strong in the situation around us. I look at our work, and yes, it's a lot of internal work. It's a lot of work of faith and cultivating the spirit and the will and just who we are as people, getting more aligned with who we are. But I think another important part that is outside of ourselves that we also is a huge part of our philosophy is making people become more in touch with reality. Because many of the things we try to control outside of ourselves is trying to manage reality, whether that's pleasure, whether that's power, whether that's control. And often we don't know we're doing this, but it is, again, attachment is the key of suffering, as the Buddha said, right? And that attachment is being disconnected from reality and then trying to fight for something that is out of alignment with the true nature of things.
Yeah. That's why I picked the axiom that I did for this segment of the show. One of your favorite ones, isn't
it? Yeah.
Perception is reality. Now, you were talking about the spirit and how what we kind of focus on, in this case, reality, and it may not even be real reality. Most of us avoid reality as much as often as we can. But what we hold in our perception becomes the reality that we live in. But that's only half of it, Michael, because what we identify with as self becomes ultimately what we align with too, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure which one influences the other the most, but when you have these two things together, this is why you can't just change your perception and everything will be changed. You also have to change what you're identifying with, because that's what you're going to be aligning with.
That's what lives in your body.
That's right. And the universe, the force, God, they don't respond to only what you say you want. They respond to that true, not the illusion, but the true resonating part of you. Whatever you're resonating with, in other words, is what you're going to see and what you're going to do. And it's going to affect your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your motives, and ultimately your actions. But this is also why people are looking for what is missing in the wrong place. We feel a void, right? Or something feels lost. And we may not even know what that is. A lot of us really feel like something's out of place. So we'll go looking everywhere else instead of inside. We'll ask or we'll beg for people to tell us what's missing within us, as if they can tell you, as if they know. I have no idea what's missing in you, Michael. When you came to me, I didn't know. We just went down the list until you found it, right? So, and we had lots of talks, lots of conversations about God, about the force, about the universe, about all these things, right? Until you found what was missing. But it was nothing outside. It wasn't me. It wasn't anything like that, right? You're always looking in the wrong place because the outside is all we start to see after a while, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think we all get caught up into it. You talk about not evaluating the self. What people do, we're afraid to look internally. It's not just that we'd rather look out here and that we're trying to find it out here. It is that we have a deep fear of looking inward. I had a huge conversation about this recently because it was just like, why are people so avoidant to self-awareness? Why is the suffering worth not looking inward and asking, what is the part I'm playing in this? What can I do to move beyond this? And the conversation pretty much led into it's the nervous system cannot handle that type of shock because there are core pillars that keep our self-esteem up, that keep our self-worth up, that keep our identity up. And when we start to rattle that, our nervous system freaks the hell out because all of a sudden what's kept you safe, you can now tell is hurting you. And so we will project, we will avoid, we will have cognitive dissonance, we will do everything we can to look outside of ourselves for the solution because it's too scary to turn inwards, whether we realize that or not. Again, this is the body talking. Because the minute we start digging deep, we get uncomfortable. And when we feel that discomfort, distract, avoid. Find something else, because this ain't working. This ain't making me a happy person.
Right. This stuff also shows up in how we ask, in the quality of questions we're asking ourselves. You know, I'm fond of saying one of the first steps in healing is to ask yourselves better questions, right? And it is. But the quality of your questions will also be how this shows up. So if you're asking questions about your worth, if you're questioning your worth, you know, then things like love is going to be very suspicious to you, right? If you're making statements like, or your questioning revolves around how much you fail, or are you going to fail, or failing in general, then what does opportunity look like? Danger.
Yeah.
Right? If you're questioning or stating your power, how much power you have or lack or don't have or whatever, then responsibility is going to be impossible for you. At least it's going to feel like it is. So the quality of our questions and our statements to ourselves with that letter I in front of everything, you know, like, I am not worthy. Stop saying that, right? Flicking your damn forehead if I hear you saying that, right? Don't say it around me, because I like to give forehead taps right in the third eye, right? Michael had a bump on his for a while.
It looked like a unicorn. It was ridiculous.
You know, but I'm just saying, right? Gosh dang it, I hate it when I hear that, because I just want to snatch him up and say, look me in the eye.
Now, you learned me some when we first started working together.
You are not going to speak to my friend that way, right? So that's kind of how it shows up too, is in the way we talk to ourselves. But how does this, Michael, how does this self-image, how do the way we identify, I should say self-identity, because, you know, that's what's really hurting us here. How does that become a blueprint for our behavior if we're not careful? Why can someone consciously want change but still keep acting like they can't or won't?
Man, it's exactly like you're saying, that reinforcement. We look at the mechanisms that drive us. For me, a great example is before I started school. For years, the decade it took me to get back into school was I barely got through high school. I'm not smart enough for that. I can't handle that. That's not something that I could... I'm not smart enough was the big underlying theme I kept giving myself. And in fact, I even made it a personality trait where I could joke about my incompetence to people because I was that confident not only in it, but that was how I handled the insecurity around it. And that's been one of the most shattering things as I've done this work, as I realized how many of these insecurities and beliefs I had about myself that I converted into humor. That way I would avoid anyone else mocking me for it. And as I've shifted into this new me, and now that I no longer see myself like that, it's my humor dried the hell up. Oh my God. Like, because anytime I go to say any type of joke about myself, I'm like, hey, that's not very nice. Don't talk about me like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. So let's talk about how we can start changing some of this stuff. You know, we've gained some insight. Now it's time to integrate, right? And one way is to admit, to believe, to understand that we are the key. Not Michael and I are your key, but you are the key for you. He's the key for him. But awareness is very important here, isn't it? Because we cannot change what we're not aware of. And as long as this identity remains invisible or elusive to us, it runs the system without our commands, just on autopilot, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's not even just the awareness of what's going on inside, but the awareness of how many things you're trying to control outside of yourself that you have no control over. One of the things that helped me the most in my journey before I got to rock bottom and started the healing work was the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I would recite that so many times throughout my life, because often when I was getting upset, I'd have to pause and reflect. It's like, is this anything I have any measure of control over? Is this anything I would even have an impact on, like politics, right? Upset what's going on in the world. It's like, I need to separate myself from this because it's causing emotional turmoil and there's nothing I can do here. You know, there was a quote that came up today out of one of my favorite books, The Power of Now. And it was, to offer no resistance to life is to be in a state of grace, ease, and lightness. the more we stop trying to control the world and controlling ourselves. Not saying self-discipline. I'm talking about trying to micromanage the hell out of ourselves and convict ourselves. The more we can allow life to open up naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was our good friend, Brenda Martinez. Go check her out at our website, newashla.com, and click on what do we call it? The Soulful Connections tab. And you can find her. But yeah, I seen that post today too. And it was synchronicity at play, because it was a perfect quote for the day we're recording this show that came across. But that's why it's important for us to observe where and what the identity is. And if it's false, then we can address it. We can start to open up the space. And once we can start opening up the space and expanding our container, right, which is us, it's like our container. We haven't kind of explained that in a long time, Michael. But our container is what we can hold in totality, our energy, right, our knowledge, our wisdom, all this stuff, and we want to expand our container as much as we can, so we can hold more, right? So we're not bound by these automatic things. But that is the turning of the key, because awareness allows us to say, this is a belief I have been living from, but it may not be the truth of who I am. If we can truthfully and honestly look at that, then we can start to change it. Because when we can ask ourselves, where did this identity come from? It now gives us the power to notice, right, that this is not my true self. This is a lie that I told myself, or this is a pattern that I developed who knows when or how long ago. So, and once that happens, change then starts to become possible. Not because your old wounds and old identities just poof, disappear, right? We were talking about this the other day, how they don't just go away. They don't just magically disappear. But once we get power over them, then we can remain the managers of them.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I'll say the one thing that's blown me away as I've been getting through this next phase of healing is how difficult it was managing my triggers, trying to show up differently when I was activated or things were intense. It was hell in the beginning. But now it's not that the triggers went away. I have more agency over myself now when they activate. Mm-hmm. So I can tell those triggers, I appreciate your input. Right now, I am being an adult.
Yeah.
Let me handle this, and then we can talk.
Well, and it's perfect, because when that self-image changes, all of your behaviors start to follow that.
Yeah.
Without question. Without you having to even manage that part, right? We're just, in a lot of ways, we are replacing routine code, if you will, of our operating system with new code, so that we don't have to consciously worry about that, but our behaviors do change. Lots of things in our life starts to change. Our choices will change. Our reactions will change, because we'll stop reacting so much and we'll start responding. Our relationships may start to change. Yes, exactly. Who and what we reach for, right, will change, because we stop trying to force that transformation from outside. We're trying to squeeze ourselves in. We can't both at the same time expand our containers and crush our containers at the same time. We have to pick one or the other. Right at the end of the day, we have to pick one or the other.
There is one disclaimer I want to give on this, though. Yeah. And this is something that I've come to realize, because I know my therapist often talked to me as I was doing this work. I was doing the right things. I cognitively was showing up differently. I was showing up differently. One of the reasons why that first bit was hell is because it does take a while for your nervous system to catch up to the new you.
Yeah.
So they talk about healing being up and down. Don't feel disheartened when the first couple times you stand up for yourself, it's like, man, I'm just as activated, or I'm more activated. You know, they talk about like addiction. When you have a craving, you quit for the first couple days. It's rough, but then you'll hit like the first week, and that's what it's screaming at you. Healing is the same way. And it takes a while before your nervous system catches on to the new blueprint your mind has. Because that's been the big shift for me, is I'm not showing up necessarily different. I am, because now my nervous system has caught up. All of a sudden, I'm able to kick ass and take names and not worry about it. But it took a year and a half for my nervous system to really embody the changes that were happening within me.
Axiom of light. If you realize that all things change, then there's nothing for you to cling to. Think about that for a minute. Our old identities, they survive. Our old wounds, they survive. Our all the old things survive mostly through attachment. Would you say it's true? And they mostly attach to our bodies because we can lie and trick ourselves into forgetting things. I'll give you an example. As you guys know, those of you who've been following the show, you guys know I had some really bad medical stuff happen just recently. Something changed in me, Michael. This is something you and I have been talking about offline quite a bit. Something I've been talking to Heather with quite a bit because Heather's the one ultimately has to deal with me. She has to put up with me more than anyone else. So
Poor soul.
She gets a voice in this, but something's changed in me. I've become a lot easier to annoy. And I've become very, very short and blunt with my communication, with my
approach
to things. And it's not anger, and it's not necessarily over aggression, but that's the word I'm looking for.
He ran out of fucks.
Yeah. I don't know if my patience have left me. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out, but something has chained me, right? I'm being chained by something and I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's almost like, because Heather had mentioned to me just today, really, we were talking about this, that I remind her of the person that she first met. Now, mind you, Heather and I have been together for 25 years. So she would have met me before I discovered much of this knowledge and long before I developed much of this wisdom. So that really kind of got me in thinking very deeply, Michael. Has this event, have these circumstances knocked something loose that was hiding, right? Knocked something loose that I forgot about, right? Because consciously, I thought that I had gone through and healed all the things that were annoying the shit out of me, right? To put it mildly, things that were attached to me over the years. But maybe now something has been knocked loose by all this turmoil. And here's the point in all this I'm saying. I'm not trying to get you guys to counsel me today, but the point I'm making is that we can have attachments without even knowing we're attached to things. Because it could be our body that's attached to things. It could be our soul that's attached to things, our mind being attached, right? They could be attached separately, or one attached or the other. And now something happens and this thing has been knocked loose. And now I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Right? Because it's clearly showing in my behavior and how I'm communicating. You know, now, like I said to her earlier today, she was not happy with the way that I was communicating with her. And I said, listen, this is how I communicate. I want to give you the information as fast and as furious as I can so that you have it. Maybe not the best way to give information. That's a good way to give information if you're in the middle of an emergency and I'm on my radio and I'm calling in for help, right? I'm giving them just what they need. No fluff, no bull crap, no nothing. Yes, this is blah, 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 right? And it comes across as very harsh and it comes across as very fast, furious, like I said. So again, the whole point here is these things survive. And I don't know what this thing is. I'm working on it, right? I'm getting to the bottom of it. I'm looking for more clues and I'm doing all the things that we tell you guys that you can do for all of this stuff. I'm doing all those things. And even for me, this stuff is a slow process. It's a deliberate process, right? We want to make sure that we're taking the right steps and not rushing this. So, maybe we'll do a show on that later once I figure this out. But attachment to old things is where we get in trouble. And we may not even be aware of the attachment, right?
It's crazy how the past can come out no matter how much work you think you did. I had a client I was working with the other day who's just like, I've spent the last 15 years helping people heal. I've been on top of the world. And all of a sudden, all these things are coming out of the closet and attacking me. And it's like, I don't know. I'm like, why am I giving people advice on how to heal? And it's like, right. There's nothing wrong with you doing that. You are being asked to level up. I mean, one of our philosophies is you become the student, you work your way up to master, but the master isn't the top. Becoming the student again is the top. And that's exactly what life will do to you.
That's right. You're not a master until you've become a better student again.
Yep.
For us.
Even then, you ain't gonna hit the pinnacle. You just gonna die and start over.
Yeah. That's why it's important for us. And we always say the light reveals what has been hidden. I'm not ashamed of what's happening. I'm certainly becoming aware of it, but but it's liberation when this happens, because then we can allow our greater self to observe with empathy and with compassion. Certainly helps us to see that old identity without becoming trapped inside of it. So,
well, one thing I got to add to that, just because it's a perfect time to actually show this off, is we often talk about doing this analysis, seeing these things that come up that we really want to persecute ourselves with, we want to judge ourselves with. Look how Justin's talking about this. This is a big thing for him. Like I said, we've talked offline about it. This is something that's truly been like, whoa, what's going on here? But it's never self-attack. It's never judging himself. It's never trying to shame that part back into a hole somewhere. Instead, he's approaching it with curiosity, which we always talk about. Curiosity, different perspectives. It's trying to understand and get into relationship with this part and not trying to deem it as something bad within us. So I just had to point that out because we don't get often many times to show that.
Right. And yes, from Heather's perspective, I'm not being very curious about it. It seems like I'm acting through it, and at times I am. But
Just
now's
like
the time. That's right. And so now it's time to be curious and ask questions, right? Say, whoa, where did that come from? Because I can see myself doing it, and it's weird to me. Because she's right. She's 100% right. It has been a minute since I was like that, and that dude was dead and gone. But something lingered, something remained. So something that all this is broken loose. So yeah, we're going to keep staying curious, because it's more like, wow, where did that come from? That was weird, right?
Nope. Exactly.
Whoa, where did you know?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
What are you needing right now?
Yeah. You, come here. It's time to talk. Do you have any final thoughts before we get to the exercise and stuff?
Yes. So we were talking earlier about control, or at least I was. That was a big tangent I went on. A movie I highly recommend anyone watching is Finding Joe. It's on YouTube. It's free. And it is such a great exploration of self in this topic. And there's a topic in there that I want to touch on called Follow Your Bliss. And this concept is virtually, the more you detach from these identities, from these things you think you're supposed to do, or the end goals you have in your life, the more you release control of that and just follow what brings you joy, whether it's the people you surround yourself with, the experiences that you crave that you don't go out there and do. A lot of us are stuck in isolation, loneliness, depression, and it's because we're limiting ourselves. I know we have all had those moments where someone invites us out, or we see an event coming up, or we're like, it would be really nice if I went and did X. Do it. Follow your bliss. And I promise you the world will open up, but detach from outcome. You know, even starting a business and trying to get your life to take off, detach from the outcome. It doesn't mean don't have a heading, but do not rigidly hold to where you're going to end up. Allow the wind to pick up your sails and blow you aimlessly to whatever country or continent it's going to bring you to, because I promise if you do that, it'll be far grander than anything else you could imagine.
Yep. Well said. So our exercise for today, we're going to learn to start shifting our identity. Now, of course, as of late, this is going to be with a journal, and I want you to take 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes. Step one, we're going to identify where we are currently, or rather, we're going to observe how we currently identify. That's a better way of saying it, right? How we currently identify. And I want you to write down as many of the identity beliefs as you can from this moment that you've been living from. For example, I'm not capable, or I'm always behind, or I'm hard to love. God, I hate that one, Michael. I'm hard to love. I am hard to love. I cannot change. Yes, you can. I am not the kind of person who succeeds. Those are just examples. Step two, you're going to ask where each of these beliefs came from. And you may discover that you've made agreements that these are real, right? Or someone else made an agreement for you on your behalf. Was it family? Was it your culture, your religion, your school? Could be old traumas, old relationships, or I guess a current relationship too. Something you've been trying to succeed at, but you keep failing. Could be any of those things, or ones that you can come up with. Step three, I want you to stand up and say, hey, hold right there, pal. I want you to challenge that belief. And we're going to challenge it by asking better questions, Michael. Is this real? Is this truth? Is this the absolute truth? Am I any of these things really? Is this a conditioned belief? Did somebody tell me to believe this? Is this the light speaking? Is this God speaking? Is this the force speaking? Is it a higher power speaking to me? Now, does this belief align with love, truth, integrity, connection, or the sanctity of life? Step 4, you're going to define the aligned self. You're going to find where you align with these 5 of our ethos: love, truth, integrity, connection, and the sanctity of life, or if you prefer, reverence for life, respect for life, however you want to say that last one. I want you to find where you align and define that. And then I want you to write a true statement. I am learning to trust my capacity. These are examples. I'm becoming someone who acts with courage and clarity. I can grow through difficulty without becoming defined by it, etc. Right? Step 5 is you must embody this through at least one action. And in fact, you should just do one. We always like to do one step. Embody these through one action. Choose one action today or this week that gives the deeper self-evidence of a new identity. It's something we've started to talk about, right, Michael? Looking for the evidence that you are this and not these things that you have found false beliefs with. And again, not just, I don't want you to sit here and think about it. I don't want you to write any more sentences. I want you to do something. Take action. Do one action. And then here's a good affirmation that you can close down this exercise. I release what I was. I align with who I'm becoming through the truth. I have an optional practice that does not involve your journal for those who might be going, groan, grumble, grumble, Michael. I want you to sit upright, quietly and comfortably. I don't want you to meditate perfectly because there's no such thing. I just want you to be able to settle into your breath and your body. I want you to take several deep breaths in through your nose, and out through your mouth, something like that. Place one hand over your heart and then your other hand over that hand. And I want you to sit quietly, and I want you to feel that steady beat. And I want you to ask yourself a question, but do not judge what comes. Observe, and do not try to force an answer. Let this stuff come naturally. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Who am I beneath the labels and the masks and the roles? What am I truly looking for? That one you may have to sit with for a while. I did. And understand that our inner voice does not usually shout at us. It speaks from stillness when we're at peace. If your mind is filled with worry and resentment and all these things, stress and fear, it really becomes hard to hear because these things are noise. We don't want noise. Calmness and gratitude and openness help dull the noise and make the message more clear. Do you have anything to add to our exercises for today, Michael?
No, I think one thing to just push on, if you are someone who's really struggling right now, the whole look for the evidence part is so vital because we have to train our brains to look for what we want to see in life, because our brains automatically scan for evidence of what we believe. And to shift that belief, we must shift our perspective to search for that which we want to embody.
That's right. Better to look for the evidence of what you really are than the evidence of what you identify with or believe that you are. Right? Our affirmations for today. I am not limited by my past identity. I observe myself with clarity and truth. I choose who I become through awareness and right action. I align with my true self and the light within. I am not the old pattern. I am becoming aligned with the force. And our journal prompts. What identity have I been living from recently? Where did that identity come from? How has that identity shaped my choices, my relationships, and expectations? What identity is more aligned with truth? What action today would help me embody that truer self? So today's kind of a long one, guys, and I apologize for that, but this is really an important topic because a lot of us feel like we're missing out, or we're missing, or we're incomplete, or that we have to wait for something. But that's not true. You're not incomplete. You're not missing something. And you don't have to wait for the perfect thing to come up, the perfect teacher, the perfect whatever. You've just been looking outward for what's always been inside you. This path that I teach, this path that Michael and I walk, it's a path of remembrance. You have this inside of you. The key was never hidden. You are the key. Not your surface personality, not your conditioned identity, not the old stories or the wounds or the fear, the deeper self, the aware self, the I am. It's within you. So stop searching outside of yourself for a door and a key and a guru and all these things. It helps if you become aware. That way you can step into the truth and release these identities that don't belong to you. Many of them were given to you without even knowing it. So let knowledge become action. And then let that combination of knowledge and action become wisdom and experience. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to the show, subscribe to our TikToks and our Facebooks and YouTubes, our Spotifys. And we're going to start expanding soon, you guys. I'm going to be adding an extra podcast here very soon. That's going to be coming from the temple perspective. And we're going to explore the teachings from a spiritual and philosophical way. But if this episode resonated with you and you know somebody out there that could be helped by it, share it. But like it for sure, please, because Google doesn't always do a good job of helping your friends and getting them the help they need, right?
Yeah.
Also, make sure you check out the greatest website ever built, newashla.com, which in the coming months is going to be what did we say it was? The greatest or great, it's going to be even better. The greatest sister. Yeah. It's going to get even better, which is impossible, but it's going to be. So also check out, Michael, remind them about the episode guide.
Oh yeah, no, if this episode resonated with you, there right below you're going to have a link that just downloads a guide to your phone. You can fill it out on there, print it off to help you really do some deep searching in this. Figure out what barriers are in your way. Help you to cultivate a map of where you can start really following who you are and detaching from the identities that have been holding you back to help evaluate those beliefs. And then if you like that, if you subscribe to our newsletter on our website, newashla.com, you'll get access to the Sanctuary Guide, which is about 3 times the size, but is really an in-depth, month-long process of digging into this and cultivating a deeper self-understanding and getting closer to that inner locus of control.
So, guys, you are the key. But you need to know thyself. Step into awareness and step into the truth. We love you guys so very much. Thank you so much. With gratitude and love, ad lucem.
Ad lucem.